Hello and welcome to this networking presentation. My name is Joseph Bokari. Today I'm here to share knowledge with you guys on how to configure web server and DNS server in Cisco Packet Tracer. When we talk about web server, a web server is a software and hardware that uses HTTP, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, wherein this protocol responds to client requests made over the World Wide Web, which is www. Okay, so here the purpose of the web server is to grant the user's request. Okay, for example, if you're sitting on your computer and then you go to your web browser, you type in www.cisco.com or any website, okay, or any website. Looking at this web page here, this web page is coming directly from the web server. The web server is granting that request to you. Okay, so that is the protocol and that is the function of the web server. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm going to create a script here on this website, and then I'm going to use the client PC to access that website or that web page on this server here. Okay, so that is the function of a web server. The web server grant the user's request. That is the main purpose of the web server. Okay, and then also when we talk about DNS, what is the function of DNS? Okay, the DNS is just like a phone. Okay, it acts as a phone contact for the internet. Okay, so the DNS has a database containing the public IP address that relate to names of the website. Okay, so that is the function of the DNS. Okay, so in case you were trying to locate that particular web page, the DNS also deliver that web page. Okay, because it's a system of records of domain names and IP addresses that allows the browser to find the right IP address that correspond to a host name. Okay, so that is the function of the DNS. So today I am going to show you guys how to configure the DNS server and then also the web server. Okay, so on the DNS here, I'm going to assign an IP addresses, the host name of the website, and then on the web server here, I'm going to create a script or a website here on this web server here, and then I'm going to access it through the client PC, okay, or the user's PC. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and then launch the packet tracer because I'm going to use a packet tracer here to do the configuration. Okay, to configure the web server and the DNS. So I'm just going to open the packet tracer. This is the packet tracer. This is my working area, and then down here this is my toolbox. So I'm going to look for a PC and then also a switch. So this switch is going to be 2950, which is 24 port switch, and then also a server is going to be 2 servers. Okay, one for the web server and then one for the DNS. Okay, so now I'm going to use a cable to link the end devices together. Okay, so that cable is going to be a copper straight through cable. So here on my cable link, this is the cable that I'm going to use, which is copper straight through cable. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to connect the PC into the switch. And on the switch here, I'm going to connect it to the fast Ethernet port, which is port 1, and then I'm going to repeat the same process. This one is going to be port 2, and then port 3. Okay, so let me just space them out a little bit. Okay, so this is the topology that I've just created. simple topology. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a process called naming and addressing. So I'm going to rename them um, by it's just a form like I don't know how to say it, but it's just like trying to distinguish them so that they'll be able easily they'll be able to you'll be able as a technician to identify the devices in this particular network. So here I'm just going to rename this one to web server. Is going to be web server. Okay, and this one down here is going to be DNS server. Okay, DNS server. Okay, and then this one here is going to be the client PC. Okay, client PC. I'm just going to say PC1. Okay, so now I have done a process called naming and addressing. Okay, naming and addressing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and start the configuration on the web server. Okay, so here you click on the server and then on desktop, and then here on IP configuration. So the IP address that I'm going to assign on the web server here is going to be class C IP address, and it's going to be a static IP address. Okay, so I'm going to type in my IP address, which is 192.168.1.1. so that is the IP address for the web server. Okay, down here is the subnet mask, and then in here I'm just going to type in the IP address for the DNS here. Okay, so it's going to be 192.168.1.2. sorry, .2. Okay, so this IP address here is the IP address for the DNS. So you have to make sure that everything here is accurate. Okay, so that during the testing, everything we correspond to each other. Okay, so you make sure that everything is accurate here, and then after the assigning the IP addresses, I'm just going to move on to the services. Okay, so on the web server here we are configuring the HTTP. Okay, so I'm going to click on the HTTP, and then down here I'm going to create my own script. Okay, the script that I'm going to create here is for the client to be able to access the web page that I'm going to create here. Okay, so I'm going to create a web page on this web server here, so that the client PC here will be able to have access to it. Okay, because the purpose of the web server is to grant the user's request or the client request. Okay, so here on the fifth index HTML, I'm just going to edit it. So here I'm going to click on edit, and then I'm going to clear this portion here. Okay, and then I'm going to create my own opening tag and closing tag here. Okay, so basically I'm creating the website here, okay, or the web page. So I'm just going to write my opening tag, create my opening tag. So my opening tag is going to be this. Okay, right, so this is my opening tag. This sign here is my opening tag. Okay, the script here is my opening tag, and then I'm going to space it a little bit and create my closing tag. Okay, so my closing tag is going to be this one. Okay, all right, so this one here is my closing tag. Okay, as you can see, it's different, and then this one is my opening tag. Okay, so now I'm going to create my welcoming notes for this website. Okay, so this the welcoming note that I'm going to write here is going to be welcome. Just going to type welcome. Okay. Exclamation mark. Welcome to Jusu. So you're just going to put in a couple of welcome to Jusu space Jusu Bokari's networking tutorial tutorial website. Okay, website. Okay, website. Okay, so I just created this script here. So this script here is going to be the welcoming note. So when I made any request from the client PC and from the web server, this is what I'm going to get. Okay, so I'm going to add more. So I'm going to add more right in there. So I'm going to say please, okay, please subscribe. So I'm just going to say please subscribe. Please subscribe or click, okay, or click like for more networking, okay, for more networking tutorial videos. Okay, tutorial videos. Okay, so this is going to be my web page. Okay, so this one here is going to be my web page. I'm just going to conclude by saying thank you. Okay, so this is going to be my web page. So now I have created a script here on this web server. Okay, so as a client or as a user, when I'm going to type about Jusu or search about me, this is what is going to appear as my web page. Okay, so from here you have to make sure you save it. So I'm going to save it. It's going to ask you to save, and then you say yes. And then for the configuration for the web server is pretty much done, and then I'm going to move down to the DNS server. So in the DNS server, you repeat the same process. Go to desktop, and then the IP address is going to be class C IP address, which is going to be a static IP address. Here I'm going to type in the IP address for the DNS, which is going to be 192.168.1.2. okay, and down there is a subnet mask. Here I'm going to assign again the DNS IP address, which is going to be 192.168.1.2. okay, you have to cross check again if everything is accurate, and then you move on to the services. Okay, on the services here, remember on the web server it was HTTP. For the DNS is going to be DNS. So I'm going to click on the DNS portion, and then here on the on button you have to make sure it's active. So I'm going to click on that on button. So here I'm going to create the host name. Here I'm going to type in the host name for the DNS. Remember, the DNS is a it has a database that hosts IP addresses and host name, okay, of a particular website. So I'm going to type in the host name here, right here in this link here. Okay, so the host name is going to be welcome. Okay, welcome. Okay, with the exclamation mark. And then down here I'm going to assign an IP address, and the IP address is going to be the web server IP address. So you see they are corresponding. You have to make sure they correspond to each other. Okay, so here is going to be the IP address for the web server. So the IP address for the web server is 192.168.1.1. okay, and then you click add. Okay, so now here we have the host name and then also the IP address. So that is the function of the DNS. Okay, the DNS like host names of a particular website, and then also the IP address. So here this configuration is pretty much done, so I'm just going to click out, and then I'm going to move on to the PC. On the PC here, I'm just going to do the same, just assign an IP address, which is going to be a static IP address. And it's going to be 192, a static IP address, and it's going to be class C IP address, 192.168.1.3. okay, and then don't forget the DNS server IP address. So I'm going to type in the IP address for the DNS, which is 192.168.1.2. okay, and then you have to make sure that everything is correct. And then I'm going to close this dialog box for the client PC one. And then now the purpose of this configuration here is for this web server here to be able to grant the user's request. Okay, so now I'm going to try to get the web page that I just created on this web server here. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the PC. You go to the PC here, and then you go to the HTTP or the web browser. Okay, just like I did here with Cisco. Okay, website. So here I'm just going to click in here. Okay, and then here I'm just going to type welcome. Okay, welcome, followed by exclamation mark, and then I press enter. You see, so now the web server just grant my request, okay, based on the web page that was created on this web server. Okay, so this is how you configure web server and DNS server in Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay, so again, the DNS is responsible to host the name of a particular website and also the IP address. So here I just type in the host name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type again the IP address. It's going to pull it, going to display that web page again for me through the IP address. Okay, 192. Okay, 192.168. So I'm going to put the IP address for the web server. Okay, and you will see it's going to pull up that web page again for me through using the IP address. You can also use the host name, and then you can also use the IP address. So I'm just using the IP address now. So 192.168.1.1. you see, so you have to make sure that everything is accurate and then they correspond to each other. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how you configure web server and DNS server in Cisco Packet Tracer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comment, you can leave it below. Thanks for watching.